Okay, and we are live. Yay.
Cool. Good job, Tatiana. It was our first time doing
Yay.
this.
I copied
So
and pasted.
for everybody's edification, this is Tatiana's first meeting as a county employee. She'd been our part-time staff person for the bulk of the last 4 years. And this is kind of a big deal. We once again have a public art position within ACC government, and that's taken years of effort amongst ourselves. So good job all around. So welcome to our May 2021 meeting. Why don't we just kick things off by approving our April minutes and get that business out of the way? So can I have a motion to approve the minutes from April last month?
I move we approve the minutes of April 2021.
Second.
Cool.
Okay, great. All those, are they any additions or anything else that we want to add or rectify from the April minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from last April, please say aye.
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 Okay. Anybody opposed? Please say nay. Great. I'm glad nobody does that. But it's good we have the opportunity. So why don't we just kick things off by introducing our new members, and we have 3 new faces this month, Esra, Victoria, and Serena. If y'all could introduce yourselves real quick.
Sure, Andrew, thanks. My name is Esra. I teach English literature at the University of Georgia, and I am originally from Istanbul, Turkey. This is my 10th year here in Athens, and I'm really excited to be a part of this group.
Great.
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay, Victoria.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm Victoria. I run a small business here in town. I work with nonprofits really at the crossroads of fundraising, storytelling, and then board governance and board engagement. I'm from Eatonton, Georgia, which is not quite as fancy and much closer. And I've been in Athens kind of off and on since 2008, mostly on, but some off. But so I've been here a little while.
Great. Welcome, Victoria. And Serena?
Hi, everybody. This is Serena. I'm from Italy. I live in Athens, Georgia since 2017. I'm faculty at the University of North Georgia, where I teach music and violin, viola, chamber orchestra, and music appreciation. I'm looking forward to continue this journey here with you all. Thank you.
Great.
Welcome.
And so Esra and Victoria join us as ACAC commissioners, and then Serena will join us as an ex officio member. Y'all, we had an amazing round of interviews about 4 weeks ago. We had 8 interviews, which is the most we've ever had in one round. We could have taken easily 6 of the 8. Tough decisions had to be made, and so we're expanding our ranks by 3 this time around, which is a good thing for us. Our next item of business is revisiting something we talked about last month, which was a possible opportunity for intersection art around the Hawthorne and Oglethorpe intersection. This was both uncertain and kind of unexpected when we first heard about this a month ago. We had a continued conversation about this with the SPLOST office last week, and there are 2 things that we should be mindful of. One is that this is a $30,000 or $35,000 public art opportunity, so it's a pretty substantial budget. 2, the SPLOST office consulted with the county attorney's office, and a month ago, we talked about this being proximate to Bishop Park, which it certainly is. However, the county attorney thinks that this, because the funds were generated from an intersection improvement project, that the art produced from these funds, or 1% of these funds, have to be clearly associated with the intersection. Diana, am I giving an adequate summary of the legal requirements here?
Yes.
Okay, so clearly associated with the intersection. So we don't think this means that we can turn this into what we were talking about earlier, a few bike racks at the entrance of Bishop Park. That would not meet the definition of being clearly associated with the intersection. And so this again is $30,000 or $35,000 that has to be within or adjacent to this intersection. Last month we had a number of us willing to walk the site and come up with some ideas. Now that we need to come up with some ideas, I think we will need to take y'all up on that. Madeline, can you revisit the minutes from last month and see who that group was?
Yes, just a second. I know I was in that group because this is in my district, so this will be a cool thing to learn about. 1 second.
We might be looking at intersection art ideas, because the clearly associated with the intersection bit is a little bit unexpected, and so I think we need to go to the drawing board and visit that site with whoever of us wanted to be part of that from last month's discussion, and if any new members want to be part of that too, as a way to get your feet wet. That this is an ideal opportunity because with this specific project, none of us know what we're doing yet. So it's a great moment to all be at the same level. And real quick, while we're waiting for that information from Madeline, why don't the rest of us quickly introduce ourselves? I'm Andrew. I met y'all during interviews, and I'm chairperson of ACAC, and I've been in this role for 2 years, at Athens for 7 years. B.
Hi, I'm B. Brown. I've been on this board for over 3 years now, originally from Washington, D.C. I'm a scientist and I'm an artist.
Dee Dee.
Hi, I'm the facilities and program supervisor at the Linden House Arts Center and a former commissioner on the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission and an advisor in this role.
Okay, Donna. Oh, you're muted.
That's a very popular meme, isn't it? The you're muted to meme. I'm Donna Brumby. I'm not sure how long I've been on the commission. It took a while for me to actually approve. I'm retired from the Athens-Clarke County Library. Was the one of the assistant directors there, and ended up as in charge of grants. So that's my entree into this group.
Cool. Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen Kirkendall, and I am a retired landscape architect and practiced mostly park planning in the city of Denver and the national parks. And after moving here in Athens in 2009, I embarked on a new career in as an artist. So that's what I do now.
Great. Jan?
I am Jan Bush. I'm with the Athens Area Arts Council. So I'm an ex officio member. And before this, I was with a Cultural Affairs Commission. And I just really am thrilled to be a part of the organization. So
Great. Madeline?
Yes, I did find the notes. But yeah, I'm Madeline Blankenship. I'm in the process of transitioning from what's on the screen, Bates, as I got married a few months ago. But I have been the secretary of ACAC for the last year, and I actually work with Creature Comforts, the brewery, but I work with them on their community outreach program called Get Artistic, which supports artists in a number of unusual ways for our community. So I'm sort of a just very out there kind of arts administrator, but with a brewery. So that's what I do.
Okay, Marilyn?
I'm Marilyn Wolford-Katz. I'm a former chair, now on the advisory committee, and am a retired art educator. Thank you.
Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Rains. I'm the Arts Division Administrator for Athens-Clarke County and Leisure Services, and was briefly on the commission before I continued my work in this role as the Arts Administrator for the city.
Tatiana?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Most of you met me in the interviews, but I'm Tatiana. I'm the Public Art Coordinator for Leisure Services for the county. And I've been working with the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission since late 2016, part-time, and then just started my new full-time role with the county.
And Patrice?
Hello, I'm Patrice. I am the Vice Chair of ACAC. I'm a librarian over at the Special Collections Library at UGA, and my computer does not like for me to have video on, so I may take that off.
And we'll let Maduri, Diana, and Gavin introduce themselves later. They're county employees who are joining us tonight for a few different things. Why don't we just, our next item of business, oh, Madeline, who's going to be part of this walking of the intersection?
Yeah, we've actually been talking about this for a few months with slow progress. I'm excited we have progress now. So I went back to February, and the volunteers at that time to walk the site, we have Patrice, Jan, Andrew, and myself. So if anybody else would like to join, please let us know.
Yeah, if anybody else, you can raise your hand now or shoot me an email. We probably need to, okay. I see Esra, that's great.
And Victoria and maybe Helen, or are you just smiling? So
Is there a historical connection between the street of Hawthorne and Oglethorpe? I mean, something must have happened that could be, associated with that intersection.
Yeah, it's definitely not
You know anything?
confluence of names. I don't.
Let's make something happen.
We can invent the story.
We can invent the story.
Yeah, Serena asked if there's any information to read. Maybe the budget from the whatever T-Splost initiative paid for this intersection improvement. Otherwise, I think we can come up with our own reading list. But yeah, I mean, anything goes, I guess. It's a substantial budget. And again, the constraint of being clearly associated with the entity that was funded, of which the 1% provides the art opportunity, the constraint could make for something pretty interesting.
Count me in. This could be interesting. Yeah, count me in on this one.
We talked about crocheting some stop signs, but the Splost didn't like that one, so we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But yeah, we can make that visit happen in the next couple of weeks. I'll send something out to get us organized on that front.
Before we move past, I just want to make sure, because some people were raising their hands. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I have the folks from last time, which are Patrice, Jan, Andrew, myself, and then this time I have Esther, Victoria, and Beatrice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cool. This will be fun. It always is, if a little painful at first. It's kind of our mantra. Gavin and Maduri, the floor is yours. Why don't we start with Gavin? And just remind us, this is project 10 or 11 from the SPLOST 2020 list?
Oh, let's do intros real quick.
Oh, yes. Gavin, introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Gavin Hassmer. I am the Assistant Director for the Central Services Department, which my main reason for being here this evening is project number 27 of the SPLOST 2020 project list for facilities maintenance, which falls under the Central Services Department.
Yeah, Diana and Maduri, if you could introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Go ahead, Maduri.
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Madhuri. I recently joined SPLOS team as an assistant project administrator. So I'm looking forward to learn more about the art projects. Thank you.
All right.
And I'm Diane Jackson with the SPLOST team, and I'm here acting as kind of the art liaison, making sure that we stay on top of our side of the deal as the funding.
Great. Okay, Gavin, so tell us more about number 27.
Sure. And again, thank you for considering it. I think you all talked about it last month at your meeting. The project number 27 is for facilities equipment systems replacement. What this actually entails, first of all, is it is not on the same level as new construction of government buildings, like, for example, the courthouse. This is on the lines of replacement of key components of existing facilities. So roofs, HVAC systems, generators, flooring, which I doubt we'd even get to. I mean, there is a laundry list that the government keeps of our over 225 structures that we maintain and over 2 million square feet. And the point of our request for the 2020 SPLOST was to help us out. Essentially, we have a significant backlog of replacement projects for our government buildings. And the funding from SPLOST 2020 will go a very long way in assisting us in completing some of that list. The alternative to SPLOST funding, which has basically been the history of replacement projects, has been through capital funds raised through the general fund, which is taxes. And our list of projects outgrows the amount of funding that we receive on an annual basis from the general fund capital projects. And if I may, would it be okay if I shared my screen real quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So real quick, and this is available on the SPLOST website, and some of you may have seen this. This is the breakdown essentially of SPLOST 2020 funding. And number 27 is listed right here. And as you can see, it kind of breaks it down for the next 12 years, the amount of projected funding that we're anticipated to get. So it's really, central services can kind of go different ways with this. We anticipate taking the annual funding and asking the mayor and commission to approve a list of projects every year based on the projected amount of funding that we get. There may be a year or two where we essentially group 2 years together to get a bigger pot of money and then tackle some projects. But nonetheless, we're not in a position to just say, here's a list of projects for the next 12 years. Can you just approve all of them when we go to the mayor and commission? We'd like to prioritize them every year, and they change from year to year. I mean, new projects get added as projects come off. More roofs need replacement every year, same with HVAC systems, and we reprioritize annually. One other, let's see here. Let me get out of that and share one more quick thing. this is an internal document. Let's see. Well, oh, here we go. So this is just an example of the internal list that we keep within our department. This is just the FY22 list. I won't show you the whole
Jeff,
list.
I don't see anything yet.
Okay. Does anybody else see anything?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
Can you try it again, please?
Let's see. Well, I'll try one more time. Otherwise, I'll just let this go here. How about now?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So this is our internal list, and this is not in final document at all. This is just an ongoing list, but this is the type of projects that essentially we're going to be picking from annually to go to the mayor and commission for approval based on the amount of annual funding from SPLOST 2020. As you can see, just from these first couple projects, HVAC and roof, that's what we're looking at. And I mean, as we go down the list, there are over 107 just right now, and it's going to grow as we keep going. So this is the type of projects that we will go before the mayor and commission with annually. And our question to the Arts Council is, would it be possible if you make a determination that public art is not needed necessarily for this particular project? Is it something that we can assume applies to the entire project over the 12 years, the estimated $7.5 million in funding? Or is it something that we need to come back annually to you all to when we go to the mayor and commission on an annual basis? I mean, essentially, when we go to the mayor and commission, we're just going to give them an updated list of however many projects equal the amount of funding for that year of roofs, HVAC, and generators. And that's essentially going to be the case for the next 12 years, potentially. So what we would just like clarification on is whether it's okay to assume that any approval from you all for exemption from the 1% is good for the entirety of this project number 27, or is it just good for this FY22 year?
Okay. So am I correct to state it would be a hardship on you guys and on the objectives of project number 27 if we were trying to pursue 1% of, say, a roof project here and there, that would both complicate the work and also eat away at the budget that needs to be. You guys probably do need 100 out of 100 pennies to go towards what y'all have planned.
I think I'll say this. I certainly respect the fact that it is your decision and you have a right to ask for the 1%, just like you do with any SPLOST project. And so, you know, if that is what you all decide, I certainly respect that decision and I won't argue that. What I would say, though, is that we certainly do have a use for all of that funding. If you were to just take the estimated total project number 27 of 7.5 million, and let's just say the 1% is 70,000. We certainly will have a roof or an HVAC system for 70,000 that money could be used for. And I guess, you know, my question would also be then, knowing that the project description is not going to change and that we as a staff have to make sure we fit within the project description, which when you read it is replacement of HVAC, roofs, flooring, you know, minor other projects. That annual list that we present to the mayor and commission has to fit within that definition, and it's not going to change from year to year. I mean, the locations of the buildings will change, but the types of work has to fall within the definition.
Okay. Thanks. Gavin, we'll have an answer to you later this week. I think before we discuss further as a group, it might be helpful for us to hear from Madhuri and Diana about the full project list, which we've also been asked to vote on tonight. So in that context, I think let's go ahead and turn it over to those two.
Okay.
So,
I didn't
yeah.
realize I was presenting this. So do you have
I
the
don't think
list
we
that you
need
guys
to.
today?
I emailed the list to the group last week, immediately after the meeting was splossed, and I guess I want to hear from my team. What do you guys think about the opportunities that are in front of us when it comes to the whole SPOS 2020 list?
Can I, Chair, I think that if you look at the budget for all of these, the budgets are very good, except Sandy Creek Nature Center is very low. And well, that's really the only one that's really low. It sounds like a place where we might put a little extra money, add a little extra money to that budget and make it something that is a little more prominent over there. But other than that, the budgets are great. Now, will they, my question is, because in the past, when we've had like the jail, we had a big budget for art at the jail and everybody went nuts and it got cut. Some of these big budgets, like the facility space modernization, affordable housing, the top three, will this be the budget we get to work with, or will that be cut by government?
So Andrew, I'm not looking at what you sent to the group. The budget that you gave them, is that the project budget or is it the construction budget?
It was the total project budget. So those numbers are probably inflated in most cases. Let me send a reminder. I made that initial list in November 19, right after the voters decided to continue the SPOS referendum, and I didn't know what I was doing yet. So that should just be a rough guide when it comes to the budget itself.
Right.
So when it comes, the projects are the same, but the budgets aren't necessarily.
That is correct. So what the voters, what the referendum stated, it is 1% of the construction budget. So there are costs associated with other things that don't have to do with construction. So we are, I think, Audrey and Keith and Robert are working on getting the actual construction dollars together. And once we have those finalized, we will share them with you, Andrew, and you can share them with the group.
Okay.
But, you know, let's just say roughly it's going to be, maybe, I don't know off the top of my head. Let's say it's going to be somewhere between 75 and 80% of what he's showing there. I don't know that off the top of my head, but that's a rough number. Maybe some of them are going to be higher than that.
Would you remind us of, describe maybe visually the environmental mitigation and restoration and renewable energy, what those projects will look like, to imagine whether or not there should be art there?
So renewable energy is solar, basically, and looking at doing things on the buildings and adding to solar, you know, where we get our energy from, energy. Environmental mitigation is going to be probably, I don't know off the top of my head, but it sounds to me more like stream bank mitigation projects, things like that. Maybe taking streams and making them, if they were piped, taking them out of the streams and making them a live stream again. I think it's just I don't think that there was anything that was distinct yet. It was a kind of a pot of money put together by whomever developed that project. Were those the two that you asked about?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Diana, is it still the plan for SPLOST to present the list to Mayor and Commission next Tuesday? Or whatever the next agenda?
I think what is being presented to them is the implementation schedule that Muddy has been working very hard on with Keith and Robert to say what is going to happen when and get them to agree to that. What they agreed to previously was the tiering of when projects might happen, but this is more like we've developed a schedule as to when each of the projects are going to go, and this is how long each of them are going to take.
Okay. So that's essentially what Gavin just explained as well. They're prioritizing and grouping projects together, putting them into a schedule, and that's what they'll be presenting for central services.
I think that that's what they're presenting for central services. This is the implementation schedule for all 34 of the projects.
Okay.
And many of the projects have sub-projects. In total, I don't know, Andrew, if you shared that with them, what you had developed. I think we're going to have approximately 90 projects out there by the time you get all the sub-projects. So there's a lot of work sessions and a lot of voting sessions, and staff is going to be crazy, and the mayor and commissioner are going to be crazy. It'll be a good time, and we'll have a lot of art out of it. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So what's the timeline that you need from the Cultural Affairs Commission because we had the meeting last week, and then
I'd like a general idea of whether you agree with the consensus of whether there will be art associated with all of these. But again, when we go to mayor commission with project concepts and we go to work session with them, we'll have whether the ACAC agrees that there's art, that letter, I guess, that you guys present. There'll be a letter with every one of the projects and every one of the sub-projects.
And when do you need the letter by? We had talked about it being this Thursday. Is that still the timeline?
I would presume so. I don't think anything's changed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, a little last minute, but I think it's last minute for everybody. They basically need us to make a determination tonight so that we can get them letters by Thursday morning of this week. So that's why I emailed the list and as much of the context as I had at the time. Now, when I first sat down in November of 19, right after the vote, I was a new chair. I was very overzealous. And again, like I said, I didn't really know how things worked. I was approaching this like a negotiation, and I don't think it is. After last week's meeting, it seems like this is less of a negotiation and more of an interpretation of budgets and laws. Marilyn's shaking her head, so maybe she discovered that to be the process as well. Perhaps the hard way, like me, maybe not. She's not as stubborn as I am. And basically the SPLOST office presented us with the full list of all of the 37 projects. And they already had their determination. Should it include 1% for art? Yes or no? We compared that with my notes, and we only diverged in 5 instances. And so I highlighted all 5 of those in yellow. It's Project 12, Green Space Acquisition and Sustainability, Athens West Park, which is number 14, number 27, which Gavin just talked about, number 36, and number 37. And so again, I think this is less of a negotiation. Here's why we diverge for each one. So on green space acquisition and sustainability, it seems like the budget is going to go pretty much just toward land acquisition. So there will likely not be a capital construction component. So since it is just land acquisition, it probably should not. We should deem this as unsuitable for public art, in my opinion. Number 14, Athens West Park is the same thing. The budget is just for land acquisition. If you read that SPLOST item, there's not really a budget for any kind of construction for an actual park. It's just the acquisition from SLOSS 2020 funds. And then number 36 and number 37, the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission can't tell Bogart or Winterville what to do with their allocation of the SPLOST 2020 package. So again, when I saw this in 19, I was like, hey, cool, why wouldn't the Winterville project include public art? Why wouldn't the Bogart one? You know, we could have better signage that was mentioned in their budget items. We can't, through the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission, make that recommendation to the mayor of Bogart and to the mayor of Winterville. That's just not how it works, right? And so that is the four instances where my preliminary determination in November 2 years ago didn't match up with what SPLOST has been doing over the last few weeks. And so, for the reasons described, I think that we should default to the SPLOST office's determination, and we should find art unsuitable in all four of those instances. Land acquisition, Bogart, and Winterville.
Winterville, right.
And then there's the issue of what Gavin talked about, project number 27, where it seems like we have the right to at least advocate for art opportunities around some of this, but I'm not sure that we should. Just because we can, to me, doesn't mean that we should.
And we don't want to put ourselves, I mean, we have a long list of big projects in the next few years. Why get argumentative about tiny bits of money that we don't really know what we want to do with and make more work for ourselves?
Right. If there's a $100,000 DFAX roof replacement and HVAC replacement, 1% of that is $1,000 that would have to be spent at that site. You know, without Project 27, we still have 11 standalone art projects and up to 54 sub-projects that will or should include public art. And to me, that feels like a win already. So I think the voters did the arts advocacy, and we're going to get 1% of most opportunities, but perhaps not those 5.
And may I add one more? Diana, when you described Project 10, Environmental Mitigation and Restoration, then I looked down at 35, live stream pipe replacement. Are those connected? Seems like live stream pipe replacement would not be one, and it has no budget there anyway.
Right, and I think that the environmental mitigation, if I think back to when, I wish Gavin was still on the call, but when Andrew was talking about it, I think some of it also has to do with if you had a contaminated site or a HAZ site and you had to do some mitigation for that site, you know, I had a project that had lead contamination on it, and we had to go out and mitigate for it. So I think that that's part of it too. So I think that I may have said live pipe, but I was just trying to think of all the different ways that we could mitigate for things in the environment, you know.
Yeah. So Project 35, Project 10, you know, that's the one where SPLOST said we can say yes for now, and then, you know, maybe as these projects get a little more clearly defined in the next few years, maybe that yes, maybe for now becomes a probably not down the road. But I am more inclined to say yes for now, because you can unring that bell a lot more easily than the reverse.
Agreed.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand that. You can unring what bell?
You know, if we say that Project 10, which is renewable energy, or I'm sorry, that's environmental mitigation and restoration, there might be up to 25,000 for art.
Okay.
The SPOST office was unsure of the parameters of that project, at least for now. At least that was my understanding and they said, yes, we can say yes for now.
Yes to what?
Yes to getting 1% for art from
Okay,
that.
that's okay.
Sorry.
That's what I didn't understand. Because I'm looking at number 27 and I'm thinking, yeah, I understand that you don't want to do 1% of each individual project, but 1% of 7.5 million is a chunk.
75,000. That's a chunk. That's a chunk.
And I kind of wonder if we want, are they going to hide future SPLOSTs into maintenance so that we don't get the 1%?
I doubt that.
More?
I don't know.
Well, I think part of the problem, I think part of the issue here is that SPLOST is being used for maintenance projects more and more often. And the 1% for the art was not intended to be part of a maintenance program. It's part of a capital improvement program.
Okay.
And so I think that project number 27 is really maintenance, and we really shouldn't be in that business.
We only get 1% of construction budget.
Right.
So I don't see that has really construction involved.
Well, it should be for new construction and major improvements, and not for just replacing roofs and plumbing.
Right. Right.
Okay. I get it.
But Andrew, what you were saying is that if, like, say we did want to push back on that and say, oh, we think we should, get 1% out of that budget. What you were saying is it would be per sort of sub project, and it had to be at that location. We can't just do it overall for that
Right.
project.
What we would need to do, we have two options now for project 27. We can say no, that we find just the whole project unsuitable for public art since it is more maintenance, less new construction. Or we can read this every year, and every year we send a letter saying no or saying yes. Either we let 27 go now for the next 10 or 12 years, if we make that determination tonight, or we revisit project 27 every year and say yes or no, depending on what's happening. Yes, Helen.
But I think that we have already seen how the city attorney has been interpreting the way public art gets used, so that, if you're replacing a roof at Lay Rec Center, that public art piece has to be 1% of that roof, and it has to be at that rec center. And that's the only way they interpret these projects. It's not like we can lump them all together and create this wonderful art piece somewhere on College Avenue. We're not going to be able to do that.
Right. For that reason, I think it's a little too unwieldy, and I think that number 27 already is trying to do too much for what it is. Like you said, there's 250 odd buildings that the county maintains, and this is the only real budget for the next 10 years to make repairs. So we should we need to strongly consider giving the penny back now, or making the determination on that one every year. Which again, those are our only two options. So why don't we vote on what to do with 27 and then the whole list? That is what the SPLOST office wants us to do tonight.
Let's say no to number 27, like now and forevermore. The criteria is not going to change.
Is that a motion, B? Did you make that a motion?
I'd like to move that.
Sounds like a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we vote no on project number 27 now and forevermore. as it is described.
Can somebody second that motion?
A second from Patrice, and that's a good way to build rapport, I guess, with our municipal friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, which is letting go of arts opportunities for Project 27 through the duration of SPLOST 2020. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So Madeline, for our minutes, if you can just record how many of us, how many voting members tonight? 10?
Yeah, we're just missing Darcy. Not who joined.
Yes,
So
okay.
I believe that's everybody present. Nobody.
Cool.
Signed.
Okay, as for the full SPLOST 2020 list, I think the sensible thing to do is to not die on the hill of finding SPLOST opportunities that we're not really entitled to. So for letting go of the two ones that really pertain to land acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the ones that pertain to Bogart and Winterville, because we can't tell them what to do with their share of the SPLOST 2020 package. And so for that reason, I think the sensible thing is to do is to let go of those four, which are SPLOST number 12, 14, 36, and 37. If somebody agrees
So
that that's
moved. So
okay,
moved.
great. Who wants to second that emotion?
Second from Patrice.
Okay, all in favor of the SPLOST 2020 package as proposed
Can I
by
just
last
remind
week's
one
discussion.
thing?
Yes, Marilyn.
One thing. Project 35. I think it's just pipes. And that's another one that I don't think we should worry about fighting over.
Since the SPLOST office was saying yes to that, I don't think we should undo that. You know, it's one that I don't even know that there's a budget yet for that one. I don't really know what's going on with number 35. But I want to say yes to that for now. Just because that's a lot more easily reversed than saying no. I think saying no is irrevocable, and saying yes is certainly not binding in perpetuity if it doesn't make sense as a project down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm greedy. Y'all know that about me. I want to say yes to all opportunities for public art that are feasible. But I'm pretty honest about this bias of mine. So
I think Diana brought a good reason for having that as a yes, is that there are some remediation and interpretive opportunities that that project could take advantage of with the arts.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep it open. We don't really have enough information. Really, we don't even have any numbers associated with it, but that might come in the future.
cool. So again, who wants to make a motion for definitively saying no to number 12, 14,
The
again, land
motion,
acquisition, as well as
the motion was made. This was just
the motion was made. You're right.
Right. We're on
Okay.
35.
So we'll say yes to 35.
We'll say yes. Let's move. I move that we say yes to 35 and reserve our spot until later date.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to let go of those four, but say yes to every other feasible opportunity for public art in the SPLOST 2020 package. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, got some letters to write. Copy and paste will be my friend this week.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thanks, y'all. That is perhaps the painful part of our meeting tonight. And again, this is something we do only 10 years, so it's not usually this elaborate, but there was a lot of official business to take care of this week. I have an ad hoc mural panel request. So real quick for our new members, we have a boatload of really high-end mural panels that we bought for the Hot Corner mural when we were scrambling to find a new location for the Hot Corner mural, which I'll talk about at our orientation session next week. I can give the bigger backstory then. Anywho, we bought a lot of mural panels because that was plan A at the time that are still in storage. We didn't end up needing them for the Hot Corner mural project. A North Georgia artist, Marie Cochran, who y'all might know, she runs the Affirmation Artist Project. She called and asked if she could have 2 of our mural panels for a portable mural project that she's trying to do throughout North Georgia. On the theme that art is the antidote to the poison in the world, she's hoping to bring mural panels on a temporary basis to parts of North Georgia that wouldn't ordinarily have art like that. Now, since it's not art in our county, and ultimately counties paid for the mural panels that we spent money on 2 years ago, perhaps this isn't a thing we do unless we could stipulate that it comes to Athens-Clarke County if we do provide the mural panels.
Andrew, just an update on the mural panels that a number of them are being used for one of your resiliency grants. And so your stock has gone down a bit. It is for the mural alley. And in addition, local artist Broderick Flanagan was given one of the panels as well. So it's not in its original number. There's still a number, but the mural project for the alleyway took, I think, 6 of them, and then Broderick a 7th that we cut down for him. So yeah, just in terms of inventory.
Good to know. We still have some. Good to know that number is depleting. So yes, do we think that this is a good use of 2 of our panels, and do we think that it's even something that we can offer to the artist for a project like this one?
Where will they end up ultimately?
Yeah.
I think if they came back here, it would be fine, but is this something that we have to ask the city attorney's office about?
The artist is not a resident of Athens-Clarke County? And
Not a resident of Athens-Clarke County. She's in
the work
Tacoma.
is for like more broadly Northeast Georgia, right?
Right.
This is sort of uncharted waters, and there's something uncomfortable about it that I can't quite articulate at the moment.
Well, I mean, really, there's not that we don't want to help, but you can't just be like, hey, I want to do this thing, give it to me. You know, there has to be a process.
How did we have the panels? Like, how is that a thing?
So we have them because we bought them for a project and didn't use
how
them.
did she know we have them?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I really don't know.
There's a lot of people in Athens who probably may have shared that.
Words out. People know we got panels.
I don't think it makes sense. I also think that there are better applications within our county.
I think so too. I think the precedent is out there of us donating these panels to works that become permanent fixtures in our community. With Broderick's panel, that was a collaboration with the Athens Housing Authority. With the mural alleyway, we know where those are going, and that's in perpetuity.
Like if this were one of our grant awardees or something like that, that would make more sense. But in this situation, there's no process, there's no channels in which this person has requested these materials. And so that's kind of, I mean, we could look into it, but
No, I think we choose to die on the hills we die on, and I don't think this is one.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't warrant further discussion.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, next
Yeah.
item. So real quick, this one is scheduling big picture ACAC meetings. So real quick, basically 2 or more years ago, when you were a new member to ACAC, you had the option to join one of 2 subcommittees. And by option, it wasn't really an option. You had to join one of 2 subcommittees. That was either projects or outreach, right? Pretty high level, pretty big picture. It's time to get back to that, but revisit the way we do things. So this is back when most of our projects were volunteer led, and it was volunteer labor managing the majority of the SPOS projects. That doesn't necessarily make sense, and I want to have a conversation first before defaulting back to that way of doing things. And so I think it's time to think about breaking off into 2 subcommittees. Because look, in the last few months, our meetings have gotten quite large, and there's a lot to talk about. Now that Tatiana's started as the public art coordinator in a full-time capacity, our realities are changing. And these are realities that were assumed. If you read our public art master plan, it talks about, by year 2, actually, our public art master plan assumed that we would have a full-time person way sooner than we actually did. So the public art master plan was released and approved by our mayor and commission in the spring of 2017, and then by year 2, by 18, that the whole master plan assumes that we would have had a full-time person enacting the public art master plan a year later, so 3 years ago, which we didn't. However, now that we do have a full-time person, again, not just enacting the work of ACAC, but public art in many forms throughout the county. Now that our realities, however, on the ground are changing, I think it's time to break out into 2 groups, at least for now. One being outreach, chaired by Patrice, and another, for lack of a better word, we're calling strategy, and that will be chaired by me. And so we don't have to decide this tonight. I will send an email out this week, and then y'all can decide. And I think it's important, at least for now, to have these 2 groups also meeting monthly, because we need some conversations that are a little too unwieldy, a little too large for these monthly meetings to get our foothold as these realities have shifted for us as a group. So I want maybe to hear from you all on some of that, and then yeah, let's just, what do y'all think about that?
Well, I agree. I mean, I think we've got a lot of projects that we really do need some deep dive on that we haven't been able to do in this once a month meeting, which is necessary and will help to propel us, I think, with some speed as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that as well.
So, Andrew, so the idea is that Tatiana, as our public art coordinator, would take on the lion's share of the project coordination.
The day-to-day project management with the SPLOST office, that is my assumption. Although Stephanie has some say in that too, so I welcome her thoughts on this as well.
Well, as it stands right now, we meet with once a week to touch base on all of our projects or where they're at. So I'm kind of handling the day-to-day project management of all of our active projects. There's still plenty of room for the commissioners to work on some of our development of the projects in terms of serving on user groups and things like that, or any kind of research or things if we're not sure what type of project we're doing, any kind of information that might help with establishing, a call. But once we go through the call process and make the selection, I'm handling kind of the active projects there along with SPLOST. So, that's
well,
there's no room for anyone to work on projects. It's just,
No, I just think that I think it would be good to have kind of a transition from us as volunteer commissioners taking the lead on projects and shift that more towards our paid and contracted employee that has fiduciary responsibility. To take that on as the lead, and we can function more as advisors and consultants and not taking the lead, setting up the meetings and all that kind of stuff. I think that it would be smoother to have one point person for that rather than 10 point people for 10 projects. It's unwieldy, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we've been operating this way so far in the last month that Tatiana's been in working, full time. So what would be, I think, in a way is that Tatiana is the point person. She manages the projects, and then some of those parts she works with me or other people within the arts division or leisure services, and then having a committee of representatives about either an outreach. So we're going to need to put together a ribbon cutting. We know we're going to the outreach team and we're going to take it up with them, and not waiting for the monthly meeting to bring this up for all of you, so that each committee has some parts to play, and that we can bring you the details. You can edit and reflect and help us shape it so that it is what the Cultural Affairs Commission wants to see. And you can kind of take it from there, so that it's a collaboration, but that we've brought a lot of the work already sort of prepared, and y'all get a chance to give feedback and edit or make additions, and then we can take from that. So having someone having all these committees and folks on them to know who we're taking things to is going to be crucial.
Yes, Marilyn.
Since at least one of us will be on all of the user group committees that pop up for these projects, one of the things, having been on a number of user groups, I have found is that as a representative of ACAC, becomes my responsibility to explain what public art is, that we don't go pick a piece that's already been manufactured, that we don't say, the group doesn't say, well, this is the project we want, this is our idea. What you have to explain, and what I've done very often is make a slide presentation of a wide variety of things people have done, not so they can choose from it, but to say when there is a problem that needs to be solved, like what kind of art are we going to put there? People have done a million things. Artists are creative. They've come up with every idea. Look at all these nice ideas. And they begin to think, they broaden their thinking. Instead of always thinking a mural or always thinking, the same things, they begin to see that there are many answers for a piece of public art in a particular space. It can be part of a building. It might be outside a building. There are all these options. So it becomes our job to really know what public art is, to explain that we may like certain things, but the job of the user group is really to come up with criteria, explain how the project, what's involved with the project, the land use, all that sort of thing. We have to be the educators about public art. So it might be important to be sure that we all have the same idea when we go into a user group in explaining what public art really is, because it's surprising that most people really don't understand that. Thank you.
And our master plan, really thoughtful, really meticulous document. It was written over a 3 or 4 year period. It is our guiding document. SPLOST projects are our bread and butter, but it's not all that we do. And I want to point out our two non-SPLOST projects, our two most major non-SPLOST projects in our first 10 years, have each done something a little different and a little more special for the city of Athens that we wouldn't have been able to do if we were only doing SPLOST generated projects. And those two projects are the Hot Corner mural, which was funded in half from a National Endowment for the Arts grant and in half from our own discretionary funds, as well as the Athens Walk of Fame. That's the other non-SPLOST project that we've done in our first 10 years that has done something a little special. What's that?
And the library.
The library? I don't know. Tell me.
That was capital funds.
What the mural at the library or the sculpture?
The mural and the sculpture.
Oh. Good to know, Marilyn. I had no idea.
They were SPLOST.
Capital funded.
They were SPLOST.
No, they weren't.
It was okay.
That's why they're on the
Marilyn,
corner in the street.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, Marilyn was our founding chair. I would take her word for it. She was in the trenches, although Donna, you were certainly in the trenches too, on the other side of things. Okay, so more than just those two non-SPLOST projects, our Public Art Pianos project was non-SPLOST, as is our Poet Laureate initiative. Having these big picture meetings and having a big picture conversation about what our future is might move us more in the direction of finding opportunities like the Music Walk of Fame, like the Hot Corner mural, that really enrich Athens and tell stories that we wouldn't have been able to tell if we were solely reliant on SPLOST generated art funds. And so I'm hoping, and look, we've done every grant that we've gone for. We're 100%. All three, maybe four, to my knowledge, that we've ever pursued, we have won. And that's because of a few things. We have a really great body. We have really great individuals who are part of ACAC, and we only continue to get stronger as a group. And the other reason is that the story of Athens is really compelling. And when we won the grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, there were well over 100 of applicants. Only 13% of the grants funded of the applications from that cycle were funded, and we were one of them. And that's because the story of Athens and the story of Hot Corner specifically was so compelling that rose to the top of a really competitive national application cycle. And so I want us to, now that our realities are changing, and look, there was a little bit too much day-to-day SPLOST management for a volunteer body to be reasonably expected to execute on. And somehow we did that for our first 10 years without a major mutiny. And that's something to be proud of. because some of that work was pretty odious. I didn't want to have to spend 2 hours on a Sunday writing a contract that I poorly understood to begin with, that would become legally binding within our county attorney's office. That should just have never been a volunteer task. Now that our realities are changing on the ground, I think it's time to have these conversations, bigger picture, and to think about how a volunteer body should move forward. So again, expect that email at the end of this week.
Okay.
That's a mouthful. I will share one. Was there a comment?
No.
Our budget request for next year is approved. So our same operating budget of 21,000 is in place next year, and we don't have to pay a part-time contract labor position out of that chunk of change. It is still intact, and that means we need to, what we're obligated to do with that budget allocation staying the same, even though as our expenses really are diminished. What we had asked the mayor and commission in 2019, December 2019, when we made that initial budget request, was to have a fall cycle of arts and community awards in addition to a spring cycle. So we are obligated to have at least 3 new arts and community awards in the fall in addition to the spring. We can maybe revisit the amounts. We can make them larger. We can make them different. But we are now obligated to have a fall cycle for arts and community awards. But that's not our only. We could still do other things with this 21,000 in operating budget, which I remind the group is use it or lose it. This is one of our budget sources that does not accrue. So we have to use it within the fiscal year, which starts July 1st and ends June 30th. But we have another 21,000 to enact the work of ACAC that will start on July 1st. Later, we'll talk about our Arts and Community Awards this spring cycle. However, before we get to that, let's have a project report. If Tatiana can give us updates on all the projects we have going on.
Yes, and Anna's still here too. So just to run through the list, some will have more news than others. Clayton Street is underway. Greenway, we have, of course, our artist selected, and that was approved by the mayor and commission last week unanimously, which is always nice. No comments or anything. It went so fast I almost missed it. But yes, that is approved. This contract is in the works. We also had a call for the artist assistant for that particular project. We had 15 applicants for that. That just closed yesterday. So I put all those applications in a shared folder with the artist, and he is reviewing them, and he's ultimately going to be the one to make that decision. I'll be helping him do interviews and all that stuff. So I'll have an update with that, and we'll be announcing, ideally be announcing both of those things in the press release at the same time. Are you sharing something, Andrew?
I wanted to share the Greenway art. Is it showing my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a pretty cool project.
I don't see it.
Keep talking. My computer is not being very
Oh,
cooperative.
there we are. There we are. Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah,
this-
right. Yeah, you showed us this. Great.
So yes, Rainbow Forest is our Greenway art. It's a $50,000 commission, and it's 36 8-foot tall pillars spaced out evenly over a grid, forming a grid that's 25 feet by 25 feet. And this is perched on a hill near North Ave and MLK, and it will be a pretty immersive art experience. Very Instagrammable. And if the next image loads, you'll see what it might look like on site. Yes. So pretty far out there. The artist
Nice.
himself has a really high national profile. He was the featured artist at Coachella a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as you were, Tatiana, sorry.
And so yes, I have a meeting with the artist and the SPLOST department and Alex from the Nature Division, all on a call tomorrow to kind of answer any questions about the site in preparation for him coming to do that installation. And that'll be August is when he's projecting. He'll be here to work on that. Let's see. Fire station. The update is that the artist Aaron Hussey is going to be finished the end of May and be able to install that end of May. So the one kind of pressing outreach item is putting together some type of dedication while the artist is here to do the installation, because he's from Baton Rouge. So he's going to be here just for a few days to do that installation. So it'd be nice to kind of plan something. Because it's the fire station, this particular project will probably, the dedication will probably be mostly firefighters and their families. So it'll be kind of more of a, not that it won't be a public thing, but it'll be more internal, more ACC staff presence and that sort of thing. So I think it's doable in that timeline. It's cutting it pretty close, but it's doable. And then some other Stephanie's making a face. We'll see. We'll have to have a discussion on that. Dudley Park, the contract is executed on that, and fabrication documents have been turned in, so that is underway. Same with Whitehall, that's underway. Poet Laureate is, again, that announcement is pending. Stephanie and I are working with the Poet Laureate to kind of design this program because it's brand new. And lucky for us, our poet has wonderful ideas on what he wants to do for the community in terms of, putting poetry in unexpected places, as opposed to where you already find it. So we're really looking forward to that. We also have the second round of the Music Walk of Fame. That announcement is coming up pretty soon. We're working with PIO to get that out. And the plaques have been ordered. Dee Dee ordered those last week. Thank you, Dee Dee. So the next step will be, ultimately, after we announce, will be the placement of the plaques. So that's kind of all of our projects. Other than our awardees, we still have, a lot of those projects ongoing with our arts and community awardees. So if anyone has any of information to pass on with any of those, of course, for our new members, we normally do arts and community awards every year. This past year with COVID, we were able to get extra funding and do, instead of just a handful of awards, do 50 $2,000 awards. So that's $100,000 total. But there's a lot of small projects that we have out in the community. So you'll be seeing our logo everywhere and a lot of different projects coming up. So stay tuned for all of those, and we'll try to share them with the group. Yes, Tabitha has her gowns on display in the glass cube. Tabitha Felto is one of our awardees a fashion designer. So that is at the Glass Cube at Hotel Indigo. So that
And
just
I'll
went
also share one of our awardees, Imagination Squared, which was a
Yes.
project where the artist collected 1,100 maybe 5x5 inch
Well, I think like
squares
1,200. Yeah.
that various people did of all ages, all walks of life throughout Athens. And she did this before COVID, but the theme was resilience. What does resiliency look like to you? This exhibition has a permanent home at the public library.
Yeah. So
And
for her proposal, she just wanted to find a permanent home for this installation. And of course, you know, it's very costly to install something like this. She had to rent a lift and hire some help to install that, but it's up on display at the library and it looks amazing. If you go upstairs in the computer lab area, there's an archway and it's all the pieces just fill the entire archway. It's really beautiful.
yeah, it has some curatorial challenges. My suggestion was a leaf blower once a month, and I got laughed out of the room. They can deal with that. It's fine. They shouldn't be
They
listening to
love
me for
leaf blowers
curation
at the
anyway.
library. I know, wouldn't you love a leaf blower at the library?
Anyway, dust will settle on these 1,200 objects at some point, but that's their challenge to deal with.
Update on one of mine. Two of mine are complete. Two of mine are still just beginning phases of being in progress. But the fifth one is actually being installed this week. It's a public photography show that they're utilizing mostly vinyl cling sort of film that goes on the inside of a window.
Human?
Yes. So it's a photography group, photography show, actually featuring artists from around the world, including ones from Athens. But it's images of Athens around the world. So Athens, Georgia, Athens, Ohio, Athens, Greece, and so on and so on. So it's really, really special, and it started being installed I think today, and it will be kind of a phased installation, and then the artwork will be up over hopefully a couple of months, and mostly downtown. So that is just starting to go up. It's really, really unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in Athens at this wide of a scale. Very exciting.
Cool.
Who is managing Kieran's project? The papier-mâché puppet?
See, that was Linda and myself. And do you have information? Do you have something for me, or were you just curious?
I just saw him yesterday, and he was telling me all about it. So I was just curious. He's my studio neighbor, or he works with somebody in my studio neighbor, whatever. Anyway, it sounded really great. They were making it.
It's going to be amazing. So.
Cool.
And
well, that's exciting.
Oh, cooperative extension. I'm sorry, I skipped over cooperative extension. That is still underway. They were having some delays. The price of materials has changed considerably in the past year or so. So that is something that unfortunately is affecting a lot of projects, not just art projects, but other SPLOS projects as well. So I'll keep you posted on that one. But still looking at the summer though, for sure.
So yeah, we need to Tatiana, is that it for project?
I think so, unless Diana, do you have anything you want to add to?
Well, the only other thing I wanted, and maybe it's just next month or something, or maybe it's something the subcommittee talks about, is the eco stations.
Oh, yes.
Right.
So eco stations, you know, those need to be approved. The design of them needs to be approved before we can really move forward with anything with that. But the plan for the eco stations is to, once they're installed, to do vinyl wraps. There was originally talk of trying to do a laser cut enclosure around them and some other kind of more complicated things. And this is something that will be much easier in terms of a call, much more accessible in terms of 2D artists being able to design in full color, just, you know, a lot of art can be translated into a vinyl wrap. So that's going to give us more options. But there's still kind of a ways away from that because the enclosure design needs to be approved. And then once they have that, then we'll have a template to go forward with a call to do the vinyl wraps. So it's probably going to be a while on that one, but that is something that was discussed past few weeks.
I'll get with Suki, but I think it's been designed.
Oh,
It's 10
good.
by 18.
Okay,
So,
good.
but I will get with her and see what she can get her consultant to share with us.
So thank you, Diane.
Okay, we should discuss our poet laureate as it's going now. Unfortunately, it could be going better. I shared an email with the group a week or two ago with some updates on how our former member, who is leading the poet laureateship initiative, has really created a lot of headaches, and most of that was her refusal to take no for an answer. If you guys remember, she showed up to our meeting last month as a former member, had the invite and took advantage of it and came to the meeting. And so, you know, everybody except for our new members heard her ask if, you know, we could go ahead and announce the poet laureate at this UGA poetry event that was planned for late April. And we said, you know, probably not, but let me get back to you on that. And we got back to her and said, no, this isn't something we can do until the contract is finalized. She then, on her own, had talked to the nominated poet laureate and was planning to do it anyway, was planning to announce the poet laureate at this UGA poetry event anyway, without a contract in place. Thankfully, Tatiana and I had met with the poet laureate a week prior, and he knew what our plans were and how the poet laureate committee chair's plans were at odds with what we discussed with the future poet laureate. Then she went to the mayor, the county attorney, and the county manager to try to get an exception made for this, to see if they could still release the name at this UGA poetry event, or if they could get the contract accelerated so that the contract could be done in time for this UGA poetry event. After confronting this person and saying, hey, this wasn't really your decision to make, and we shouldn't spend our political capital on this request to accelerate our this contract for the poet laureate so that it can be done in time to announce this at a UGA event. It just, that's not compatible. This isn't a UGA poet laureate. It's an Athens Cultural Affairs Commission poet laureate, and UGA isn't paying the taxes that support this poet laureate position. We are, and we're accountable to taxpayers, not to UGA. Even still, and I ended an email with, you need to be more respectful to all the stakeholders, and there was no apology made. So no atoning for going behind our back twice to rush this announcement at a UGA event. This individual, our former member, is still planning to tie in the poet laureate with UGA and to make them essentially, to make this entwined with the UGA Spotlight on the Arts. And Stephanie has an update, even tried to propose a Juneteenth event where this poet laureate could do something with some UGA personnel. It just hasn't been a good look for ACAC, and it is our initiative. And it doesn't reflect well on us, and we have bigger fish to fry. You know, when we're in the inboxes of the mayor, of the county attorney, of the county manager, it needs to be for something a little more weighty than rushing a contract to make an announcement at a UGA arts event. That was just wholly inappropriate, and it's ongoing. Even after confronting the situation, it's ongoing. I'm just not copied on these emails anymore. They just get forwarded to me. It's going to continue to damage our reputation if we just let it play out as it's currently playing out. And I know Stephanie has some more detail to add to this too.
I mostly just wanted to ask, because, I'm not in all of the subcommittee meetings, and I just wanted to clarify if there was any intention to, or any commitments made that this poet laureate position would have such strong tie to the University of Georgia's College of Education, and or if there were any Juneteenth event programming or promises made on behalf of the Cultural Affairs Commission towards Juneteenth, so that I don't, I just need to clarify that with her and with anyone else. I'm working on, Juneteenth planning within the leisure services and connection with the Office of Cultural, Office of Inclusion, but I have not included any part of the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission in that planning, because we're doing small measured public events related to Juneteenth, and so I had not embedded any of this into the programming. And as Tatiana and I have been working on the scope of work for the contract, to inform the contract with the poet laureate, we have not included anything related to any institution of higher learning. We have talked about K through 12, public school education, and essentially looking at the poet laureate program as it was envisioned with this group to be about bringing poetry maybe into places that it does not already exist in prevalence. So we had kind of grouped our scope of work around considering the poet laureate's work to be about educating, advocating, and celebrating poetry in Athens. And so we're looking at like ways that this person's role could bring poetry in those ways to the Athens community. And also we're thinking about this scope of work is like, what is something that is this poet laureate, the first one, would like to do, but also something that the next poet laureate can also do. Like we're trying to establish sort of a standard of how much we expect in exchange for what we are compensating. So I just needed to hear from anyone, and you're welcome to follow up with me if you feel like you want to clarify this at another time, like in person, or you can call me. If you had any knowledge of any other kind of formal affiliations that were either promised or understood to be a part of the Poet Laureate program, because that's not how I understood it and not how we're proceeding. So I just need to clarify that, because I'm still getting emails about Spotlight on the Arts and other things, and I had no formal understanding that that was something we were planning on doing. So the emails are coming to Tatiana and I, not to the Cultural Affairs Commission. So I'm just asking, and like I said, just wanted to clarify if anyone had an understanding that I was not aware of.
From what I remember, Stephanie, the concept of the poet laureate was presented without having any kind of tie to the university. It was for Athens proper. And if I can remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the kinds of things the poet laureate was planning to do was going to be run by our committee first, by our commission first. So this is the first time I'm hearing that there is some intention to contribute to Juneteenth. I mean, I think that would have been enough to call our attention to, okay, yeah, well, let's see what you have planned. So no, this is very much news to me.
Okay. I mean, we're still working on the contract, so we have one meeting under, we have one more meeting. We would like to, write a draft of a contract. We will share it with the commission. Then we will go upon y'all approving it and being like, yes, this looks good. We will take it to the next steps, which is going to the attorney's office, and then that takes a long time. So we're still operating under, I mean, we're the government and we are slow, but we have a lot of boxes to check, and there is a reason why we have to be so diligent in our.
Absolutely.
And so the timelines don't match up for Juneteenth, which is a month away. And furthermore, that, we really want to focus this Poet Laureate program, like Andrew said, on the community of Athens, and not specifically tie it to the university. I mean, there might be opportunities for that poet to engage with the university or any other thing, but like specifically when they are working under the auspices as for this project, it should be for a really broad range of the community.
That's the way it was originally discussed, that for a broad range for the community, not the university.
And I will say, when I emailed this individual, the response was, again, without apology. And it was, I'm just trying to advance the art form. I'm excited about the opportunity. I do think it's worth mentioning, however, when I initially received the Poet Laureate proposal, it was so hastily constructed that I spent 4 hours rewriting it before the mayor and commission could see it. It just needed to be wholly revisited. It was sloppy, to be honest, and it was filled with some factual errors. I would have liked somebody's enthusiasm for the art form to have manifested in an A+ proposal from the beginning, and not something that was further work that fell into my lap over a year ago. If I just were to have handed it off to the mayor and commission to approve it as it was as it was given to me, it was so poorly constructed that too would have been a poor representation of ACAC. And so it just continues to create more problems than it fixes, to be honest. And I don't know what to do about it. But efforts, I mean, there's still outreach this week, timestamp this week, for a meeting on Wednesday, 2 days from now. The meeting invite is titled ACAC and UGA. Like,
what?
That misses the mark to me.
There's no one from ACAC.
There's nobody from ACAC invited to that meeting.
It's just me and Stephanie, and then a bunch of folks from UGA that, yeah.
So I think we need to dissolve the Poet Laureate subcommittee. They've done their job. They've selected the Poet Laureate, and it is the right person. That is the good news, is that we have the right person about to step into this role as being our inaugural Poet Laureate. But it will still continue to bleed over into UGA if we don't take action as a group. That's what will organically happen. They're going to try to put that square peg in that round hole if we don't take action as a group on that front.
I think that we have one very easy solution to it, and that's clearly defined how the contract is written. It's quite that simple. The Poet Laureate is being paid through our budget, and that can hermetically seal the activity of the Poet Laureate. And that's, to me, by contract design. Now, if the Poet Laureate chooses to do some extracurricular stuff, then it has to be under the auspices of his own initiative, but outside of ACAC. I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, if someone is going to be remunerated for a particular set of activities, then there is no motivation to go outside of that. And it seems to me that lawful contract is how you define that so that it doesn't bleed over. Stephanie, you know, that's what makes sense to me.
Oop, Helen, you're on mute.
Sorry?
Oh, Helen was talking.
Oh.
Oh. I see your lips moving. I bet you're trying to say stuff. It looks really important.
I was
Well,
gonna
now
say,
you're just cursing at me.
yeah, well,
Come
while
on.
Helen figures that out, I was gonna say I totally hear you, B. I think what Andrew's saying though is kind of like it sounds to me like the purpose of this subcommittee was to get the selection process done. So kind of like how we have the Music Walk of Fame selection
Right.
committee that may or may not be the same every year, but it's not a year-round kind of implementation committee. It's more for the selection side. So at this point, now that we're past that, it doesn't make sense to continue on with that same group of people. Am I hearing you right, Andrew?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. It seems to me that Stephanie and Tatiana are already working on some sort of scope of work for the poet laureate and what the expectations are for what he's going to accomplish for this role. I do think, though, that he is, if he's a designated poet laureate, he should have some freedom to work with groups outside of, you know, our milieu. But I don't think it should be, I think his work should be very clearly stated so it doesn't become too UGA oriented and not locally oriented. You know, that there should be some, you know, task list that he needs to accomplish. If he wants to do above and beyond that, that's fine.
Yeah, basically it's a matter of what he's contractually obligated to do for us as poet laureate. That doesn't mean he's not allowed to do other things. He can do other things, but it won't be, you know, part of his poet laureate program with us. You know, it's not going to be part of his scope of work.
So in the sense that the title is like an honorary title this person holds for the duration of the program, which we have said is 2 years. And we already talked about this, which with him, which would be like saying, you can, it's not that you can't do other things, and you can use the title, the official poet laureate of the, you know, ACC, Athens Cultural Affairs Commission, but that labor, if you're compensated for it or otherwise, does not count towards your contract with ACAC. And we also talked about stipulating in the contract a formal way to describe how this person should be referred to, both in writing and in introduction in spoken word, so that their title is formalized and we understand it when we see it. And it's just, I wanted to, so far, it just seems that there's a lot of expectation on behalf of this representative of UGA that this person will be like folded into all of these cultural events on a calendar, which I just, if I'm going to be clear about that delineation, I want to make sure the Cultural Affairs Commission is clear about that delineation and comfortable with it. So that doesn't mean that this person, this poet, can't do those programs. They just is not part of the official title, and it feels a little it's like somebody is kind of beating us to the punch, right? Someone's already advertising our poet laureate and putting it all out there on calendars and including it in meetings. And we haven't even got a signed contract yet. We can't even say the person's name out loud in this meeting because we're not there yet. And I just, the pressure and the sort of breathing down the neck is, I just don't appreciate it. And it's frustrating and unnecessarily kind of pressuring this whole project, which is fantastic. And there's so much to be proud of that we've arrived at this place. Like there's so much potential and good work here. I hate that we're sort of feeling under duress about it.
But we're in the driver's seat. So I think that the pressure you're feeling is unwarranted because you're going to hit the button. Not anyone else is going to hit the button.
However, 3 weeks ago, our Google alert got set off from a UGA calendar event that said the poet laureate will be announced then and there. And when I said, "Hey, can you fix that?" I got pushback.
Yeah,
Said,
yeah.
no, we're trying to build the event. We won't announce it. Okay, if you won't announce it, then why don't you want your event description to be accurate? And I didn't get a satisfactory answer to that. Just every little thing has been just exhausting.
I
Yes,
also
Sarah.
wanted to add, Andrew, sorry to cut you off, and I'm trying to piece things together. I don't have much background information about this, but from what I understand, this former volunteer person is also in the College of Education, which is not where poetry is housed. So it would also make a lot of UGA folks mad, actually, to have some kind of a poetry event that was featured by some other UGA faculty that is not necessarily a part of the creative writing program to begin with. So it's not just UGA taking claim here, but also alienating very important constituents outside of the perimeters of this event as well. And I think what other people have, or what is mentioned already, which is the fact that the announcement itself is going to be housed at UGA, raises a lot of red flags for me too. That this is completely independent and within the purview of ACAC. So that needs to be very clearly communicated, I think.
Did I read in some of the exchanges earlier that the poet laureate himself understands this, or is clear with it?
Yeah.
And again, the poet laureate alerted us to the fact that there were still being overtures being made to announce this at UGA. Yeah. Okay, so the way forward seems to be clear communication about what this is and what this isn't, what the poet laureateship is and what this isn't.
Absolutely.
I thought we'd done that already. It needs to come from somebody else. So Stephanie, that seems to be in your lane.
Yep. I just, before I make that very clear delineation and ask this person to refrain from associating their poetry programming on campus with the ACAC Poet Laureate program, I just wanted to give all of the commission a chance to weigh in if I was misguided in that, or I just wanted to hear from all of you or have that noted so that we can be clear. I am going to, speak to this, and talk to make the whole thing much more clear, or attempt to make it clear again. I feel like we've been through this a couple weeks now, but apparently it has not been clear enough. So I'm going to take that up with her tomorrow.
And one thing I want to just add as just, and of course this isn't directed at anyone, but just with all of our selection processes, until we get to the contract stage where we have an executed contract and everyone's in agreement about the expectations, we don't announce things. And sometimes that means we have to sit on really exciting information for a long time. And it's frustrating. I know, we're all excited. We're super pumped about art, and that's great. But just be mindful that when you are on these selection panels or you are privy to certain information before it's public, and we do have a confidentiality agreement that folks sign. During COVID, we were using the honor system with the confidentiality agreements because we weren't meeting in person. So they'd be sent by email and then everyone agrees to them verbally in the meeting. But that still means that we have to follow those protocols, especially when it comes to the county. We can't have any kind of misinformation, coming from multiple sources. It's really important that information stays centralized and that it's accurate. So again, like that, it's not because we want to spoil the fun, or it's not directed at anyone in particular. It's just just going forward, we really have to be mindful of the confidentiality protocols when it comes to stuff like this. So
and I didn't break any rules with Rainbow Forest because that was approved last week at a public mayor and commission meeting. But that, I mean, that was the first time that project had been public, was last week at the mayor and commission meeting. So it's not always the moment at which a contract is signed. For some projects, it's the moment at which the mayor and commission approve it. But the thing to be mindful is we make recommendations for art, and we're only ever making recommendations as a group. Our recommendations then go on to the mayor and commission, who say yay or nay to our recommendations. So we're just a cog in a really complex chain, but it's complex for a reason. Government's hard.
Well taken, but these behaviors are outside of our liability area, and to encourage or to schedule or to require the poet laureate to do things outside of the contract puts a lot of people in, I'll say, jeopardy, if not only just our reputation, but it could have legal consequences. And so from that standpoint, we've got to nail it.
Right.
And nail it now, and nail it so that it's done.
Thanks, B. Thanks, everybody.
Sure.
Not trying to preach to the choir. It just, it's a little upsetting to me that after a 3-year term, this individual still doesn't get it.
Well, we've worked very hard to raise awareness of what we do citywide, as well as garner some appreciation for the work that we do. To now jeopardize that with full awareness of the dangers involved in announcing before the contract and all that stuff, yada yada, I think is a disservice to us, period.
Yeah. And again, our mayor and commission as presently constructed loves public art, but those were individual battles fought over many years.
Right.
We didn't start out that way, let me tell you. And Marilyn's shaking her head yes at this more emphatically than anybody else, because she led that charge early on.
Right.
Okay, we should talk to outreach, and I know we're at the long end of how our meetings usually go, but there was a lot of business to get through today. Patrice, is there anything you want to add on the outreach front?
So I did send out an email. I don't know if our new members got it. But if you didn't, just let me know and I can forward that email again just for the sake of time. But there's lots of fun and exciting things that are coming up, things that we can think of really, really long range, because we're all not going to be here forever. That sounded really morbid, but I mean, like, on the commission. But we have to not just plan for like immediate outreach and marketing opportunities, Tatiana, but also for our successors. What do we want to happen in the future with ACAC? What would a new master plan look like? And then really thinking about how we want to divide that work, those lines of work up between strategy / projects and Tatiana and Stephanie, and outreach and marketing, and how we want to present ourselves as available and accessible to Athenians. So yes, if you have any questions about that, or if you have any ideas about something you'd like to do, or something you've been thinking about for a couple of years or a couple of months, that you think we should be doing or should stop doing, who knows, just let me know.
Okay.
Cool.
Can I clarify
Well,
one thing from earlier, Andrew?
What's that?
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to clarify for
Oh,
the
yeah.
so we kind of breezed by the Arts and Community Awards 2021 call for 5 new awards, and you said earlier, based on a budget request, we have to give out 3 in the spring and the fall. Is that
the
for
normal year, yes. This
Okay.
year we
Not this year.
yes, I guess I'm considering all of our years normal before this year, when COVID happened and we had 50 simultaneous arts and community awards. That kind of threw us off all year. And then we're no longer needing to reserve the budget pool from where these awards come from was the same from where our part-time labor came from. Now that we don't have part-time labor anymore, that frees up more arts and community awards because of the idiosyncrasies of the budget year. We have enough to do 5 to round out the fiscal year. So between now and the end of June, where in a normal year we would have probably just done 3. So we have the room in our budget to do 5 $1,500 awards. We probably should do that many. There's really no reason to do less, and we can't do more. We need to jump on this though, because the end of the fiscal year is June 30th. And if we don't spend this by June 30th, this goes on to next year's fiscal year, and we don't want that to happen. So we probably need the call to go out this week or next. And we've done this call, so we don't need to really dust it off that much. And we probably need it to be due on June 10th to give us 20 days before the end of the fiscal year. And so we'll need to convene a subcommittee for this like a day or two after these are due. So we'll need to jump on it just so we're not slowing things down since we're up against the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Why don't we just close on this note? Who wants to be part of that subcommittee? Who wants to dole out the awards? It's the funnest thing we do.
I'll be a part of that committee.
Okay. B.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
Serena. I see Jan and maybe Donna. Not Donna.
I'll do it.
I'll do it as well if nobody else wants to.
Serena, I saw.
Yes, I got Serena on there. And Jan, right? Were you raising your hand, Jan? Okay, great.
Okay. Well, that was a 2-hour meeting. We don't do that hardly ever. So newbies, I promise this is unusual for us.
Stephanie has something to add.
I just
Yes.
wanted to, I'm sorry, before we conclude, I wanted to bring up the option of meeting in person again. Do we have that on the agenda?
Oh, no.
We could do that
No.
next month.
So Dee Dee put it in the comments in the chat that the Linden House has invited groups back to meet in person if they are able to meet the requirements. What are they, Dee Dee? Safe numbers. And I think the community room where we historically met is like, I think it has to be under 20 people in that room.
Yeah. The community room holds 20 people at this time. And of course, there's outside as well. So any subcommittee or this full group falls within current CDC arrangements and ACC arrangements. So if you would like to arrange an in-person meeting, please contact me or Shannon Williams to put you in the calendar.
Okay. So do we plan on virtual for maybe one month, and then why don't we talk about this next month?
Yeah. Yeah, good idea.
Let's not add a new topic of conversation tonight.
Okay. So something to think about. We wear masks inside the building and we have like tables set up. It's pretty well spaced apart. We have doors that we can open just to give you an idea of what it will be like in the community room, but no pressure. The WebEx is always an option. I just thought we would introduce the idea for y'all to consider.
All right.
I wasn't braced for it, but sure. Let's talk about it next month.
Okay.
Good deal.
Cool. Anything else that
I
we
have,
need
I have
to
one
talk
quick
about?
thing to add. Sometime this week is just kind of a FYI. I'm going to be talking with Todd Brezzi, who wrote our public art master plan. He was the consultant that worked with the Cultural Affairs Commission on that. So we're just going to have a little phone chat and catch up all the goings on that have happened since he's been here. So if anyone has anything that they want to ask or any comment for him, just email me and let me know.
Great.
Yana, really, we want to
Without
know
further
what he's
ado,
doing.
oh,
What was that, Marilyn?
I said, we really want to know what he's doing.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out. I'll share.
Okay.
all right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks new members. I will schedule an orientation with y'all next week so that
Dee Dee has something. Dee Dee?
so that by our June meeting things make a little more sense. Yes, Dee Dee.
I was just saying bye-bye.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
On that note, bye-bye everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.